Is it my turn? Oh, okay. That was really awesome. Thank you, Melinda. I picked that song, so it makes me really happy to hear you sing it. That was like so awesome. So my name is Sarah Byrd, and I just want to start off with saying that I'm really nervous, and sometimes when I get nervous, I get a little awkward, and I thought if I just put that out there, it would like ease things up a little bit, so bear with me. So like Joe mentioned earlier, I kind of have a background in Buddhism and metaphysical Christianity. So I've been in Unity for a long time, and I also have studied Buddhism a lot. So today's talk is actually, it's written as something else on here, but now I'm looking for my title. Keep the Faith. That's what it is. So faith is traditionally a really Christian term or really Christian concept, but I'm going to kind of blend it between Buddhism and Christianity, kind of put it more in the context of Buddhism, which is really a fairly underdeveloped topic in Buddhism. So will be a little bit of a blend of both. So today's talk is about faith. And I want to look at what faith traditionally means. So Paul tells us in Hebrews 11:1, you may be familiar with this, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Webster tells us that faith is confidence or trust in a person or thing. We have faith in that person. I feel like a common understanding, I've kind of been polling people a little bit the past couple weeks, of faith is following an internal guidance, following something even without proof. That's kind of what faith is to me and to other people. So all of these ideas are a little bit different but somewhat molded together. So this sermon is about faith, but it's not. So sometimes things aren't always about what they seem that they're about. Usually things are about something else. So I like to hear this phrase, this is about that. We can think of it as in a lot of different contexts. Maybe you've got a piece of pretty crappy art from one of your kids. I mean, let's all face it, kids aren't that great at art. But it's beautiful. You love it, right? It's really about their development, that they made something, that they worked hard on it, that they're learning fine motor skills, whatever. Maybe it's a charm that you keep in your pocket or on your keychain. The charm itself doesn't really hold any meaning, but it's about something else. This is about that. So just a small example of that. Sorry, I'm losing my breath. Thank you. I get nervous. So recently, one of my childhood friends posted a picture on Facebook, and it was a picture of this play program that we were in when we were in probably third grade maybe. So we were little kids. It was from like 1996, and the play was called Of Mice and Mozart. And so it was this cute little play where everybody's dressed up as little mice, and it was just full of puns all throughout, and half of them we didn't even know what we were talking about. My character was Marie Antoinette. I had no idea who that was as a 9-year-old. And my one line for the whole play was, let them eat cake. I had no idea what I was saying. So I got this cute little bulletin. And she just posted it on Facebook with all our names in there, whatever. And I went to look at the date, and it was March 5th, something like that, 1996. And immediately as I looked at the date, I began to weep. I just started sobbing. It was It was 2 months before. Sorry.
We love you, Sarah.
Thanks. This is what I'm talking about. It's not really about the program. It was 2 months before my dad passed away. And it touched me to see that program because it was the last play that he ever saw me in. I didn't plan on crying on stage today. If I wasn't nervous before. So that's just an example of how some things The program itself doesn't hold any meaning. The program itself is a piece of paper with our names listed on it and the date. But for me, it held a lot more power, held a lot more significance. When you look at it and you get to it, the program was about the love I felt for my dad, that sadness and sorrow and grief that I felt with knowing that he didn't get to see me anymore. Thank you very much. It was about a lot more. And it's true with faith as well. Faith seems like it's just about believing in things when you don't have any proof. But faith is really about authenticity. This is about that. So, to explain a little bit about how faith is about authenticity, I want to take it into the context of being present in the present moment. And this is kind of more of the Buddhist side of things. So, was that me? Oops, sorry. So if you look at time and being present, we can live in the past, we can live in the present, or we can live in the future. So if you're living in the past, I really like digging into this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I just kind of want to lay all three out. If you're living in the past, what happens is that we think that our suffering, our pain is holding on to us. We believe that our pain is holding us. But when you look at it and really get clear about it, you realize that your pain isn't holding on to you. Your suffering doesn't have hold of you. You have hold of your suffering. You are holding on to your suffering from the past. It's like that famous Eagles quote from the song, "We live our lives in chains, never even knowing we have the key." So if you're living in the past, you're holding your suffering. It's not the other way around. And it may feel the other way around, but it places the responsibility back in the appropriate place. So in order to be present, you've got to let go of the past, which could be a whole sermon in and of itself. And then to be in the present, this is where authenticity comes in. So when you're living in the present moment, it's about accepting what is. So we hear this all the time. Be present, be in the now, be in the present moment, right? We toss it around in metaphysical Christianity or new thought movements all the time. But what it really means to me when you sit down and look at it, and this is coming from a Buddhist practitioner, someone who sits a lot in the present moment. It's not always easy to get there. But when you do, what you're doing is having a new acceptance of what's going on with you. So when you're present, all of a sudden the things that are kind of simmering under the surface, whether it's pain or sadness that you may not have even felt, a couple minutes was a perfect example of that with me, stuff that's simmering right under the surface. But sometimes it's not just pain, sometimes it's joy, bliss, love, care. Positive or negative emotions are right there. And when you get present, that's when it opens the doors to feel them. So often, we don't like to feel our own emotions. We hit the bottle. We go watch another episode, so we're checked out. We go eat some more, whatever. We escape, we're avoiding. We're not being present with what is. And to be present with what is, it's a radical acceptance of whatever your experience is. When you're in that present moment, you're truly feeling it, it's radical to go, here I am. Whatever is up for me is here, and that's okay. I'm okay with this. May not be comfortable, I may not like it, it may not be enjoyable, and it might be scary, and that's okay. So that's what being present is. Accepting what is, really looking at, being available for what's going on with you. So that's kind of the present moment. And on that, one more note, I feel like it takes a lot of vulnerability to be present with what's going on with you. And I want to read a brief section from a book that's talking about strengths and weaknesses, because it takes a tremendous amount of courage to be present with whatever's going on with you and to really be okay with that. So I'm going to read just this short section, short-ish. Okay, so right before this section in the book, it's talking about Jesus on the cross. Okay, it's kind of a Jesus-y book, but it's really good. Okay, this is not a weakness as we think of weakness. Jesus knows exactly what he's doing. There is a weakness that is truly weakness, that has nothing else to do with it. No depth, no intention, no greater purpose. But Jesus is intentional in what he's doing. His vulnerability is for a purpose. There is weakness that is actually strength, and there is strength that is actually weakness. Take, for example, a parent who yells at their children and holds them accountable for all sorts of random tasks that they were supposed to have known and to do, and who allows their own mood to dictate the mood of the whole house. This kind of parent dominates their family with manipulative behavior and petty punishments that create chaos and insecurity for those around them. This kind of parent is using their strength, but they are actually weak. They do this because in truth, they're broken, confused, insecure. They have no idea what they're doing as a parent or as a person. The same is true for managers and bosses and teachers and anyone who uses their position of authority to coerce or manipulate or bully others. They can get people to do what they want, but it's only because of the position they hold. Their authority is rooted in nothing larger or stronger or higher than their rank. And that can be taken away tomorrow. They may appear strong, but they are actually weak. Contrast this with people who appear weak but are actually quite strong. It's when someone says something mean or cutting about us, and everything within us wants to one-up them with an even nastier comment in return, thus winning the exchange. We've all felt that, right? But we hold our tongue. We lose the round, but what we did took tremendous strength. And it would take even more strength to forgive them and maybe even love them. It would all appear quite weak to the observer unless they understood that what they were witnessing is actually strength in action. It takes quite a spine to turn the other cheek. It takes phenomenal fortitude to love your enemy. It takes firm resolve to pray for those who persecute you. It isn't true just on an individual relational level. It's true for families and people groups and even nations. Consider Gandhi, who is famous for his commitment to nonviolence. Think about what he accomplished. A short, bald man from India, wearing a white robe and spectacles, stood up to the British Empire and won, without a gun. This appeared at the time to be incredibly weak, but history teaches us in this and in many other cases that there is a better way. It's a way that may appear weak, but it is actually strong. So that's just a nice little reading from this. And what I really get out of that is to be present with your own self, to be present in your own emotions and feelings and psychological state takes tremendous courage. It takes tremendous strength to be present with yourself. So when we sit with ourselves and we're honest with ourselves, we have the potential, I know in Unity and New Thought, we all try and be a little bit lovey-dovey all the time. Everything's positive, the whole shebang. Not always, guys. So the truth is that when we finally sit with ourselves and we open up to ourselves, we have tremendous breadth in the possibility of feelings. We can feel tremendous love, tremendous bliss, excitement, joy, oneness with God. And we also, as humans, have the capacity to feel tremendous suffering, hate, anger, grief, sadness. That's part of being human. That is the human nature, to feel the whole gamut of what's going on. And to be okay and be present and be vulnerable, even when it doesn't feel good, takes tremendous strength. You may tell yourself, I feel weak right now. You may tell yourself, or other people may tell you, you're being weak. Don't break down and cry. I mean, how many of us heard that as a kid? But when you finally sit with yourself, it's not weakness that you're embodying, it's strength. So this is where faith comes in, because you take it to the future tense. That was the present moment. Now if you look at the future, this is where faith is. So faith is not worrying about the future. We heard all of those other definitions at the beginning that said this is what faith is. It's about trusting, having confidence. And I just wanted to start off with reading a little bit from Matthew 6:25. Got all my bookmarks here. Okay, the section is do not worry. Matthew 6:25. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your span of life? I especially like that line. And why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass in the field, which is alive today and tomorrow, is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? Therefore, do not worry, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear? For it is the Gentiles who strive for all these things, and indeed your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But strive first for your kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today's trouble is enough for today. So I really like that too, not so much like today's trouble, everything's bad, focus on the negative now, but more like what we have going on in our own present moment is enough for us to think about now. Be present with what is. If we're present with ourselves in the future, we're not really experiencing now. What are we experiencing? Not life, not being alive. So resting in faith is about letting go of that fear. Faith and vulnerability allow us to be present. Faith and letting go of that fear in the future allow us to feel the present moment. To have faith, I was kind of thinking about that too. Like, okay, that's a great concept, but what does it mean to have faith? How do I practice that? How do I embody that? It means to have this, again, radical idea that everything is okay. It will be taken care of. How often do we worry and set up ourselves for failure just trying to figure things out, and in doing so, we ruin the whole experience? So I have another quick example. Last year, I ended up moving to Hawaii very briefly, and I was talking to my mom about it before going. I was like, Mom, I was in Colorado at the time. I was like, Mom, going out to Hawaii. There's this grad program there that I've been accepted to. I'm going to go. It'll be cool. Be great. Always wanted to go live there. And my mom, freaking out as she does, was just like all in the negative. Well, Sarah, how are you going to have insurance? What are you going to do? You can't get in the sun. You'll be sunburned. I've had a couple bouts of skin cancer earlier in my adult life, and she was really worried about that. What if you get skin cancer again? What are you going to do? She was just freaking out. You're not going to have a car? How are you going to get around? You won't have your car there, blah, 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 blah. Freaking out. She was panicking. And I was just like, Mom, how about, wow, Sarah, that sounds exciting. And I literally was like, oh my gosh, she's all in the worry. She's not in the present at all. And here I was coming from such a different area, such a different place in myself that I had a hard time even connecting to her. And I just thought to myself, I might go there. I might get sunburned. I might crash and burn. I might get skin cancer again. I might not have insurance. I might go there and completely fall flat on my face. And that's okay. It's okay. And guess what? I went there and I got sunburned and I fell flat on my face and I crashed and burned and I didn't have a car and I didn't have health insurance and blah, 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 blah. I went there, the grad school I was in, they had accepted me, but my financial aid didn't come through. I didn't have any money. I had to move back. Like, it was awful. It was an awful experience. I totally crashed and burned. And everything she said was right. I didn't have any skin cancer, thank goodness. But it was really like a fairly difficult time. But the whole time I was present with it, and I was okay. And before I even went, when I was listening to my mom, I remember talking with somebody about this. I said, I'm not going to let the fear of an experience prevent me from experiencing. That's what it means to have faith. To not let your fears and your worries about what might be prevent you from what already is. Faith in the future is really about being authentic in the present. This is about that. Thank you.